Greetings, fellow adventurers. I wanted to apologize for the previous video. Basically, I had forgotten to unmute my microphone after pausing the video to record the second half. And, well, it's not really the half, it was kind of the majority of the video. But what I wanted to do is, since it's kind of boring to watch a Let's Play without any sort of commentary, I'm going back in post and I'm going to record some audio over the actual like gameplay, so that my commentary is there. So it won't be as awesome or live as if I had done it right in the first place, but hopefully this is still fine. So I'm just literally using this in like Windows Media Player to kind of go back. And anyway, we're gonna go ahead and just start watching here. So anyway, in this part, I believed I was trying to introduce my characters. We have Darren the Silver, and so as you can see, it's kind of funny because I was spending time like introducing each character here and going over kind of their class, general build idea, and really the whole idea here with this party is to kind of have a wilder, more like nature-oriented party, and I think that it's going to be pretty cool when it actually takes off. So I'm really excited to see how this goes for like the rest of the run. Um, One thing I was trying to point out at this part is that the natural armor bonus on pretty much anything with natural armor, so including your own pets and animal companions, as well as enemies with natural armor, get their natural armor bonus doubled. And I believe it appears that the dodge bonus to AC is doubling as well. Which is rather unfortunate because that means that there's going to be a lot of enemies in this that have very high armor class for no particular reason. Um, the only workaround I could really think of at the moment is just like really kind of min maxing all of my characters' bonuses. And I mean, I try to build efficient characters anyway, try to build characters that are going to be good in combat. And I mean, that's kind of the whole point of this mode, really, is to have characters that are pretty efficient at actually fighting. Um, so I tried to do that with all these characters while still sticking to like a naturey theme. And so there's a lot of thought behind like so we've got a barbarian as kind of our frontline fighter, and as a lot of people will know from the regular Kingmaker experience and the regular Kingmaker campaign, barbarians are kind of squishy. Even though they get a lot, they have the largest hit die, so they get more HP per level than any other class. They, can rage, which gives them more HP. They, can wear up to heavy armor if you give them the feat. So in theory, the barbarian is a very tanky class. In practice, whenever they rage, because they lose 2 points of armor class, um, it kind of means that they're gonna get knocked down a lot. And so the idea behind this was to like have two classes with animal companions and summoning to create a front line, and then have characters like the barbarian, the ranger, kind of doing the actual damage, while the summons are kind of soaking up some of the damage. So that's the general strategy behind this. Now at this point, I'm kind of talking over a lot of the different aspects, shall we say, of the actual run. So the honest guy is the merchant. This dragon here, does he have a name? We're gonna find out if he has a name. Anyway, he's the dragon you recruit your characters from, and you can actually recruit additional people if you have enough money as you go through your runs, which is really cool. Because every time you go down a floor, you can actually come back to this area, rest at that table by eating that feast. You can store items in that stash, which the stash items can only apply towards your actual like current run. Like if you wipe, then you lose all of your items. So kind of a bummer there. But yeah, and then the honest guy sells more items, and the further down you get into the dungeon, the better items he actually sells. So there's a lot of options there. There's a lot of cool stuff that I'm really excited to learn about as I'm playing this game. Uh, I'm really impressed with this expansion so far. I actually think it's going to be a really like as far as like replay value goes, right? It's really hard to beat something like a roguelike game just because every time you go into the dungeon, it's randomized. and you're getting a different enough experience just because of the different permutations, class combinations, and stuff like that. That every run is going to feel unique, just because of the things that you bring to the table. And the other cool thing that I like about this is in regular Kingmaker, if you build a completely stupid party, and you knew it was stupid when you were building it, but you were having fun. You come to find out, 50 hours into the campaign, I don't actually like this party. I don't actually want to play with them anymore. Well, you're kind of out of luck because you built your entire party this way. Now, that being said, they've added a respec option into the main campaign now for a gold cost. So that's kind of a workaround. Unfortunately, um, what I found in this section is that I really wanted to give my druid a sling because I don't want her in the front. She only has like 13 AC, so she's very squishy, and I don't want her to get murdered. So I'm looking for a sling. I don't find a sling. I think about buying a javelin, but it's 400 gold. So um, I don't know about you guys. I have a problem about spending literally all of my gold on one thing. Even though I know that if I got like a masterwork great axe or something for my barbarian, for example, before heading into the first dungeon, like the first floor here, that I would be at a pretty good advantage just because early on a +1 bonus is so much. But anyway, so now we're in the actual dungeon, and we're going to see how well this strategy of mine actually works. Um, and something to consider when we're going through these dungeons is that you'll need a trap finder of some description because these floors are like filled with traps. So, unless you have a way of dealing with all the damage, poison, magical effects, etc., that come from traps in dungeons, having a trap finder, even if they're not like a rogue or a bard, is very important to the actual run itself. So that's kind of what I'm doing here is explaining like, hey, you should probably bring that along just in case. And anyway, we get into our first room here, and it looks like we've got giant centipedes. Now I don't know about you, of all the insects out there, right? Like I can deal with tarantulas. No, really, I can. I mean, I wouldn't want one on my arm or something, but I can't do centipedes. Like I think it's just not just the legs, like how many there are, but how disgusting the legs look. I mean, really, like now, I don't know if some centipede enthusiast is going to be watching this recap. I mean, it seems pretty unlikely. I don't think I've ever met a person who likes centipedes, but in the event that you are, you know, what is the defense of centipedes? Because they're just gross. There's no two ways about it. And anyway, so I've actually seen quite a number of different things on these first couple of floors. It seems like mites are a pretty common enemy. The giant centipedes aren't too common, although obviously they're pretty nasty if they actually do hit you, just because they'll do dexterity damage to you. And until you hit third level, maybe even fifth level for a druid, you can't actually do anything about it. Although the dragon in the main camp can cast like cleric spells and stuff like that. So, in the event that you don't have a cleric, if you don't feel like building a party with one every single game, um, that is an option. You can, at the end of every floor, go back up, talk to the dragon. He can cast like a remove disease, remove curse, etc., that the rest of your party normally wouldn't be able to cast. And so far, I've kind of stuck to like balance parties when I've been trying to play this. Um, just because that's the way you're apparently supposed to play Pathfinder. Um, but we'll see if that actually works out in practice. Again, though, at the moment, the big thing I'm kind of waiting for as far as like patching the game goes is just mostly looking to get that natural armor bug removed because I don't know how it's going to look later down this run. Like, because the thing is, if the natural armor stacks every single time you load into the game, like if it like triples and then quadruples and et cetera, um, eventually things are going to have such high AC that you'll only be able to hit on like a natural 20 or something. Um, which would be a double-edged sword for us because we have two animal companions that have natural armor bonuses. So, I mean, it's not all bad technically, but it's also not great. it's it's not working as intended, which kind of messes with the balance of the game. So, kind of bummed about that. Anyway, these are pretty cool. I really like these. This is very much a roguelike thing. There are these shrines here where if you pass a high enough skill check, they'll actually give you like a party buff, which I really like. I think that's really cool. That like you can get like a bless or like bear's endurance, bull strength, and it gives it to like the whole party for 30 minutes. So I mean, there's a lot of benefits to be gained from getting these shrines, and it really makes the knowledge skills feel really important. I think the only thing that I might add to it to make it more like a roguelike is if like there was a penalty for failing it by enough. Like maybe that character like takes a penalty for a little while. I don't know. It's cool the way it is though, for sure. And I like that there are a lot of like hidden chests as well. So it really incentivizes you exploring every nook and cranny just to find some of those hidden chests. Here we find a couple of frankly kind of useless scrolls. But I did note that like I found a scroll of fairy fire and reduced person. So it seems almost like the scrolls that you get are tailored to your party. Like the game tries to make sure that the scrolls that you get are actually going to be scrolls you can use. But that could also just be like placebo. Now in this instance, something very cool is about to happen. We actually find a secret room, and um, kind of pointing out that like if you ever see walls like that while you're playing this, that these walls can't actually go down. And I'm actually surprised here because most of the time when you open these secret rooms, they just have like a chest or two inside. You get a bunch of treasure and then you leave. Here, there's actually a trap and there's actually an encounter ahead as well. And I think I over prepare for it. It's so funny how like and I'm sure this will be relatable for so many people, but like when you go back and watch yourself play a game and kind of review your own gameplay, like I'm sure any RTS fans out there will relate to this. Like sometimes you'll be watching yourself playing and you'll be like, "What was I thinking at that point in time?" Like why did I do that? Like StarCraft players especially, right? Like why did I build these units? Why did I do this in my micro? Why did I do this? Things like that. And I'm kind of at the same place, honestly, where I'm like, what was I thinking at this exact moment? Like, did I think this fight was going to be tough, and did I over prepare? Did I, you know, well, did I under prepare? I mean, did I just kind of blindly run in? Like, it's hard to remember because it's been several hours since I actually recorded this. So that being said, we kind of come to a cool decision making moment here. I decide to give my barbarian a glaive. And the reason for this is kind of because we want him to be in the back row, and then we give our druid the heavy shield so that she has much more armor. Just because she's squishier than he is, but also this kind of ties into our general strategy where we want to have animal companions in the front, summons in the front, etc. And that way, the barbarian can be in the second line with the glaive, and kind of safer from any like advancing enemies. So it kind of worked out in that regard. Something I didn't go over though is, and I completely forgot this because we lost the audio. With this barbarian, we're actually planning to go dragon disciple, the prestige class that kind of lets you become a dragon. Um, so the idea is we're going to take like 4 levels of barbarian, 1 level of sorcerer, and then go into the class. And the cool thing is all the strength bonuses and like the breath weapon and stuff like that. I think will be a really cool combo, just because he can still, because rage is still useful even like 10 levels later, just because it's +2 attack and damage, which is always useful. Even though the minus to AC is not ideal, it's still pretty good. With Dragon Disciples in general, though, I mean, you can build pretty much any fighter-based class as long as you account for the fact that you're going to have like a crap load of strength by the end of taking the class. Because I think you get like a +10 to your strength by the time you're done leveling. So you just have like by 15th level, you just have like 30 strength or something like that. It's pretty incredible, and that's not even including like bonuses from like items and spells and stuff like that. Like your base strength is just like 30. So kind of it's one of the few prestige classes where I feel like it's worth taking. A lot of the time, the class specific benefits you get for sticking with one class are too good to pass up compared to some of the prestige classes. Um, and it's kind of interesting in general how in Pathfinder they kept prestige classes because they were kind of a core idea of like D&D 3.5, which Pathfinder is based off of. And so in 3.5, the base classes were basically an excuse to take a prestige class. So, fighter wasn't a very interesting class by itself, but that's because you were supposed to use it to get all the extra feats and such that you need to actually gain a level. Now, I completely over prepare for this fight by using the Bear's Endurance scroll that I had. Totally didn't need it, although I think it may have helped my barbarian make a fortitude save against one of the centipedes. So maybe not completely useless, but probably useless. Oh well, I mean, how often in these kinds of games do we just leave like scrolls, potions, etc., just sitting in our inventory doing absolutely nothing, telling ourselves that like we'll use it when the right occasion comes along, and then we just never do. And any Skyrim players, I'm sure, will know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, sometimes these fires will appear whenever you defeat a group of enemies, and they actually let you rest, which is really cool. Kind of a quick way to regain your spells and such. They usually only appear after like really tough fights as well. And then I think we're getting very close to getting to the next floor. Yeah. And every time you clear a floor in this and you head to the next floor, you get a pretty nice like chunk of experience. Like you actually get a pretty sizable amount. So I always get excited just because like it feels like clearing the floor actually means something. But you still want to like kill the enemies on the floor, of course, because I mean we the amount that we got for clearing the floor is the same as we got for defeating all the enemies, for clearing all the traps, etc. So our barbarian here is the only character with who doesn't have a penalty to the knowledge world skill. So this is pretty comical because he goes up to the shrine, he ends up rolling a 5, even though it was only a DC 11. So, he had about a 50-50 shot of getting it, um, which is fine because, I mean, we're about to clear the floor and rest anyway, but we do find a Masterwork Glaive, which is, like, perfect for us wanting to try this playstyle. A little bit of gold for the road. Hear the level up sound when the load screen starts. Always a good sign. And then I take this moment to kind of go back to the surface and level up, get rested, and everything like that. And yeah, I mean, pretty much that's all there is to it. If you watch through the rest of the video on the previous one, I mean, the rest of the commentary I think was just about like, what we're gonna do next, kind of what my initial thoughts of this are, and really what I'm thinking right now with this is I hope that there's enough enemy variety that over the course of like 30, 40, 50 runs of this, that it's still going to feel fresh every time. Because I feel like they put in more effort into this than they needed to, and I kind of feel like that's the way that this game is in general. Is just the team have done a really good job, just like working really hard on this, and you can tell that they've worked really hard on it. Even if like the end product still has some issues, like the armor stacking bug, for example, which interestingly is an old bug that was in the game previously. So I don't know if when they were moving around the code or anything like that, like something went wrong, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. It's a distinct possibility, but so far, really enjoying the mode. I think the biggest feature that's missing is just when you start a new run, there's no import export feature with characters. So, one thing that would be really awesome is if you've played a lot of Kingmaker or played enough of it to have multiple characters that you've started the campaign with. It'd be really cool to get like a dream team going of all of your like main characters from the actual campaign. That would be pretty cool. But of course, you can actually access this somewhere from the main campaign. I haven't tested it yet, and to see like how that would even work. But for the most part, you can actually just come here during the main campaign, which is why you can leave at any time. You know, it's a way that you can actually like level up and stuff if you need to, which I think is really interesting. Because one thing that was kind of interesting about the Kingmaker campaign in general was just a general like inability to level up whenever you wanted to. You were kind of just like you kind of just hoped that the random encounters you got were enough to level you up in a lot of cases, because otherwise you were just relying on main story experience to give you the bonuses that you need. Now that being said, we're going over the level up for Darren the Silver, and kind of agonizing over a rage power here. So bonus we get while raging. And I think that what we're going to decide to do is go with Swiftfoot for now, which gives us a bonus to speed while raging, and then go with either guarded or lethal stance. Probably lethal stance, just because we'll need more attack bonus to get through, the armor bug at the moment. Otherwise, I'd probably go with guarded stance, just to give just to reduce that penalty a little bit while raging. But hopefully, maybe it won't be an issue. Maybe the animal companions will be enough, and we won't have to worry about it. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And then the rest of these level ups are pretty straightforward because there's no feats to choose, nothing to agonize over. Druids know all their spells. The sorcerer didn't get any new spells at this level, so I mean it's just kind of dumping in the skill points and going from there. I am interested to see because we're just rolling with like core ranger here. Most characters I do like to run an archetype just because usually the archetype is better because they're more specialized in one way or another. Although it's also interesting to see like it's like so this is how like when they made Pathfinder they intended the game to be played, right? Which in itself is also interesting, I think. And of course, with our ranger, we're going with the archery style. We're just going to make him a badass with a bow. That's the idea, anyway. Taking the most important feat for that, precise shot, which reduces that -4 penalty for shooting into melee. Very important. Can't have an archer without that. Can't have a lot of characters without that. Like even wizards benefit from having that because when they shoot rays out of their finger, it makes it a lot easier to hit if they don't have to take a -4 penalty, which is always nice. Here, I think I was agonizing over what skill to give my sorcerer. I think I go with trickery just in case there's like a lock or something that she might be able to unlock if something doesn't go well. But anyway, I think that pretty much catches us up to where the previous video ended. I do apologize for doing this, by the way. Trying to fix it in post is only so good. But hey, at least we got something out right. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope this was a little bit better with audio this time around, and I'll see you on the next one.